Well, good evening to the world of Sutton United Football Club. I'm Greg Clark, as you will know well by now, hopefully anyway. I hope during lockdown you've not become too dismayed by my looks. I can't do anything about it, I'm sorry. And yes, you've caught me just as I'm having a wee coffee, actually. This is by no means, I must stress, this is by absolutely no means an endorsement of Nescafe or Nespresso. I just love a Milozio. If you do have a favourite coffee, or you something you like to have at night that replaces maybe a wee pint or something, do squeeze it in the live chat and I'll maybe consider buying it from the next coffee trip. But anyway, like I say, tonight we're not here to talk about me at all. No, we're not. I'm very, very pleased to present a very, very special guest. And we've had many, many on here. But tonight we're joined by the chairman of the board of Sutton United Football Club. It is Dave Farebrother. Hello, Dave. How are you?
Good evening, Greg. I'm fine, thank you. And you?
I'm not too bad. Like I say, just having a wee coffee, chatting to you. What more could you want on a Thursday?
A pub.
Well, hopefully, I hope you all observed the NHS clap, all the listeners out there. Hopefully we're one step closer every day now to going back into your local pub to watch the football. Of course, Dave, today it's just been announced, and the government have just announced that the Premier League are now permitted to go back, which is a step towards the National League potentially going down the same route.
I'm not sure that the two can be linked because it's very different issues. There is no way we can play without crowds in the stadium.
Yeah, of course.
Couldn't afford to. So what we need is the social distancing rules to disappear. Mm-hmm. And once they do that, then I don't think there's anything to stop us playing. But who knows where that will be?
Who knows, certainly. I mean, it's a very, very sorry situation for many clubs. I mean, where I'm from, just generally speaking, Scotland's had to undergo a lot of conversations, a lot of Zoom calls with very distressed directors finding a resolution beyond this problem. But it's very difficult to find one. But then again, we'll probably get to that during the course of our conversation tonight. And as I always do during our these YouTube studio events with all our very special guests, please do in the live chat any questions you have for Dave. I'm sure there are many. He's been a very, very, very loyal supporter of Sutton in many respects and many capacities for many years now. So any questions you do have, please stick them in the live chat and I'll do my best to relay them to Dave. So Dave, without further ado, I mean, obviously we're probably in week 10 of lockdown. How have you been coping? How have you been finding ways to cope without the football?
Funny enough, the football side has been quite busy for me. The firm I work for put me on furlough from the middle of April. So the last 6 weeks.
Yeah.
There's some echo there.
Yeah, I've now fixed the echo. There's a wee technical issue there, I think. So I believe that's now been fixed.
Okay, so for the last 6 weeks, I've been able to do what I like, or what my wife likes. So that's sort of gardening, sort of keeping the house up to date, tidying up, and odd jobs around the house. Mm-hmm. Football-wise, we've had a board meeting every week, as people know, virtually. So we've had that. We've had the communications we've been doing with players. Not with players, with supporters, the board reports. I've been running a virtual pub. I've been doing quizzes with a lot of the officials and my friends. So quite a lot to keep busy, but it is getting a bit lengthy now.
Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah, I think we could all do with a little morale boost. Obviously, we need to wait for the green light, I suppose, for everyone to return to good health and touch wood that happens in the very near future. But so anyway, without further ado, I think it's time to throw ourselves straight into the questions. So the questions I have for you are there's quite a lot of them. But I suppose the first place to start really is what your earliest Sutton United memory is, and how was it you begun to follow the team?
Okay, well, I have actually quite sketchy memories of my childhood, but some of the things I do remember are sport, and obviously sport on television when you're that young. So I remember the 64 Olympics. I remember Lynn Davis winning the long jump.
Yeah.
And I remember in 66, the Test Series, England against the West Indies. An old guy called Tom Graveney was recalled, and he made 150 odd on his return to the England side. And I have memories of running down the road to tell my dad that Graveney was out on the Saturday. God knows, because Dad wasn't particularly a cricket fan, but I remember doing it.
Yeah.
But I'd obviously been watching a lot of TV sport. And what I do remember, my first football match that I actually recall is the '66 FA Cup final.
All right, okay.
Which was Everton 3, Sheffield Wednesday 2. Goals from Temple and Trebilco, I think, for Everton. Trebilco got 2. And obviously that was a thrilling game. I thought, wow, great, okay. And then, of course, we had the World Cup. I watched most of the World Cup games. I didn't see the quarter-final, but I do remember being on holiday in Kent and waiting at the bridge onto the Isle of Sheppey. Okay. My uncle was a cricket fan and had no interest in the football. But obviously a car somewhere in the queue to go over the bridge had the match on the radio. And we heard that England were 1-up. And I watched the final from the living room table at home in Worcester Park. I don't think Mum and Dad were that interested, but I watched the whole game. And then, like everybody else in the road, all the other boys went out and tried to reenact England goals.
Well, I mean, I must say, like, that was a very successful England team and easily the most successful in your history. But I do have one trivia question for you if you're ready for it.
Go on.
So, do you know who the first team to beat that all-conquering world champion England team?
Yeah, it was that team of amateurs north of the border.
Yeah, and before anyone in the live chat comments, no, my uncles, granddads were not playing in that game. We're a nation of 5 million people, not 5. So, yeah, but it was Scotland, a team full of legends like Jim Baxter.
Yeah,
Johnston,
in the days when you had a lot of good players.
Yeah, and I don't quite know what happened. I mean, I think it all went downhill the day I wasn't called into the squad. But I don't hold a grudge or anything, Dave. You know. So yeah, so that's Shirley's kind of sporting and football memory. Obviously, now we had a conversation earlier this afternoon, and then one of the things I was really keen to ask you about was, and I'm not sure. Please do correct me in the live chat if I'm wrong, but one thing I'm not sure about that many Sutton fans of a certain age, maybe a certain generation, would know that there used to be a football quiz team that was created in Sutton United, and it was by our very man here, Dave Farebrother, that it was created. So, do you want to tell us a bit more about that, Dave?
Okay, well, you jumped ahead of it. I mean, I got into watching Sutton because a mate of mine, when I was at school, said, go and watch them because they're brilliant. And that was the year they won the league in '67. I went to watch a game in April '68. I think it was at Oxford City, we won 2-0. And he was right. They were brilliant. And the number 11 that he thought was brilliant was excellent, a guy called Terry Howard. But my eyes were caught by the number 10, a chap called Pritchard, who scored in that game. And after that, it took about 18 months because my dad had a job where he worked every other Saturday. Yeah. So I couldn't go all the time. I remember being really disappointed that I missed the 9-0 win over Bromley in the FA Amateur Cup. But started to get more and more involved. And then by the early 70s, we were going on the coaches to all the away games. Wow. And something that I'm going to just like to throw in that back then, so we're talking 71, 72, there were people on the coaches. So Ian and Brian Thompson, Mark Frake was around by then, Jane Taylor, Christine Taylor, Bruce Elliott, people that are still going, John Parsons, Ron Denyer, even Alison Jenner as a little girl. People were still going to these games then, and they're coming now. Yeah. And I think it's remarkable that nearly 50 years on, I still know so many of those people. And it was one of those people on the coach that really got me into that quiz team. Rothmans took over the league sponsorship in '74, and they set up a quiz between all of the teams that wanted to put a team in. And I think it was a 6-person team, and you had to have someone from the committee, someone from the playing side, and a supporter, and then the other 3 could be however you made it up. So Sutton decided to put a team in, and they didn't know who was going to be in the team. And a lady called Ellen Banks said, this little boy, and by then I was 16 and about a foot and a half taller than her, this little boy knows something about football. So somebody said, who's the manager of Liverpool? To which the answer was Bob Paisley. And they said, you're in the quiz team. Wow. So I ended up in the team alongside Bruce Elliott, Simon Clennell, who was the press secretary at the time, a footballer called Malcolm Bailey, who I think only played in one game because he was a school teacher and couldn't get away. Ended up Tony Dolbear and Ian Thompson, Bob Budd. So that was our sort of squad. We got all the way to the final. Lost to Hampton and Richmond in a two-legged, the Hampton then, in a two-legged final. Wow. Because they had a guy called Alan Simpson in the team, who some people might know. He was the writer of Fox Half Hour and Steptoe and Son. And he had an encyclopedic knowledge of football. And I think we probably only got 4 or 5 questions wrong over the 2 legs, and everything we got wrong, he got right. So we lost to Hampton and to Allen. And because I've been involved in the quiz team, someone said, why don't you come on the supporters club committee? So at the age of 16, I got elected onto the supporters club committee as the person who ran the pontoon.
Nice.
And some of you might remember in recent years, Alan Robinson has done it. I think Bob Budd took over from me. I think I took it on from someone called Graham Hawkes. That was how I got involved with the supporters club to start with.
Amazing. So, I mean, like, obviously, you were given the role as the kind of, the very, very coveted role within the Quest team at age 16. And that must have really cultivated a really good foundation of knowledge about the club itself, even from that young age. Do you think that then kind of contributed to you being, like you say, just in the club secretary and the supporters club? Do you think that's kind of why, because you started out at such a young age?
I think so. I think it's a culmination of many factors. I remember my school report when I was age 8, and my teacher said, he loves football and he loves writing, he'll end up a football reporter.
Wow.
Well, I never really got paid for it, but I did do reports in The Guardian, local newspaper.
Yeah.
And obviously I've written quite a few books for Sutton United over the years, cup runs and the club history, the centenary. So I've always been interested in the history of football, the history of sport. So I think, in the quiz team that helped. Did it help with Sutton United? I think sort of, the fact that it became obvious that I was interested in the club. Because 79, I think it was, or 80, I became secretary of the supporters club and introduced our first fanzine, which was called Touchliner.
Yeah.
I'm sure many of the people here will remember, but many won't. Before the days of laser printers, we used to have to rely on Roneo ink copiers and Xerox machines, which you turned by hand.
Yeah.
So I used to type out the magazine, and every time the typewriter keys punched a hole in the template.
Old school.
You go through it, but obviously I wasn't a great typist, so you have to go back and make corrections with correcting fluid. So my Friday nights every month were spent printing that magazine. I think we printed about 150 copies, which I then had to staple together and sell on the Saturday. So did that, and then we got to Wembley that first year in the Amateur Cup, in the FA Trophy final.
All right.
Against Bishop Guildford. So very interesting and hectic time as secretary of the supporters club. But by then, I'd also started a Sunday football team.
All right.
That was some of the mates I was at school with. Again, we started that when I was 17, so I was obviously cut out for this sort of thing, I guess.
Yeah.
And started a team which ran for 7 years, I think. It carried on after I left, because by then I'd also started a cricket club, and the cricket club decided it wanted a football team, and I jumped ship from the club I'd originally started a new football team with a cricket club, and ran that for 7 or 8 years. And then mid-80s, just after we'd been promoted to the conference the first time.
Yeah.
Lots of people on here will know a legendary Sutton United chap called Toffee Evenden. Toffee wasn't obviously his real name. I think it was Arthur, his real name. Everybody knew Toffee and his wife Olive.
The streets won't forget.
He'd been match secretary for a long time. And he decided he was going to retire. And he had decided, I don't think it was a matter for the rest of the directors or the committee, that I was going to take over from him.
Yeah.
So I went round to his house one day. He showed me what the job was. And then it would have been Peter Malloy, I guess, appointed me as the match secretary. So I took over as match secretary when we were in the conference. Obviously, gave up the supporters club job at that time.
Yeah.
And that was the season where we ended up playing Middlesbrough in the FA Cup. So
yeah.
Although we claimed the catalyst for that was me being appointed match secretary.
Well, I mean, I actually do have a very, very specific question about that match later on in the conversation we have. I mean, being a Scot, I think you can maybe foresee who it's going to be about. But we do have actually a few questions popped in the live chat. One from Messrs James King and the other from Stuart Ho. But the first, I think, given the fact you've just spoke very eloquently for 50 minutes about your kind of organic growth through the Sutton United family, we've got a question from James King asking, what's the most popular drink at the virtual pub?
Probably Doom Bar.
Doom Bar.
A couple of people have got bottles of Doom Bar that they drag out, so yes.
I mean, I think a question we maybe have for James is, what would you like to be in the virtual pub, James? What's your typical? What would you like to see behind the bar there? And then so we have another from Stuart Ho on a football matter. which I think we'll come back to later in the conversation, because there's a few historical points we want to run over with Dave right now. So without further ado, you obviously touched on there your role as sports club secretary, and obviously from there you produced the Touchliner fanzine, and then obviously that was then organically that led to you being involved in the management committee. Like almost like did that feel like a good promotion? Did that feel very, very organic there? Like did you feel like you had like done enough to be on the management committee, and like what did the role involve as on that committee itself?
I'd already at that point, even though I was quite young, I suppose, I'd already spent a couple of years on what was called the wine committee back then, which was the committee that ran the social side under a chairman called Ron Everard. And we'd done things like firework displays on November, which were an enormous amount of work but not a lot of profit. And when we got into the conference the first time, I remember having a discussion with Peter Malloy about the old wooden stands on the far side and his plans for building what's there now. And this isn't hindsight. I do remember saying to him, it's too far back, it needs to be near the fence.
Yeah.
But if it was going to be near the fence, it meant taking the floodlight pylons down, and we couldn't afford to do that.
Yeah.
But also with a load of other volunteers, some people will remember that the big curved bank behind the Collingwood Road goal was all wooden sleepers. And we went down there 2 or 3 nights, 2 or 3 weeks probably, took them all up, and I think Peter set fire to them behind the goal to get rid of them.
More fire.
And then put the concrete terracing in, which you can't see now. It's behind the fence. So, yeah. But by the time I got involved on the management committee, I knew everybody. Bruce was already on it, and I'd known Bruce through the Supporters Club for a long time. He'd been club shop manager. Mm-hmm. So I knew Bruce. I knew Simon Clennell, who was the press secretary. Mm-hmm. So Simon was one of the people that I'd go to games with and have a drink with before the match. So I knew several of the people on the committee. And yeah, I sort of grew into it. I think Bruce had been running the club dinners, and he's dying for a volunteer to be press gang to take that off his hands. So I ended up running the club annual dinner and the presentations, and I think I did that for 26 years. So that was, I think one of the things about being a football club official is you don't have one job. Whatever your job is, you get roped into so many other things. And I think you sink or you swim. Yeah. And people help you and you learn, and people work out after a while. If we've got a particular task, who's good at that task? Right, we'll give that to them. But they're not good at that, we'll give that to somebody else. Yeah. I think that's what happens. Where you're all volunteers, which we all are at Sutton, you're not appointing people from outside. You're not going out and interviewing and recruiting. You're not looking at CVs. Yeah. But trying to identify the next person off the conveyor belt of supporters or players who's going to be able to fit into the management structure.
That sounds very good. I mean, it sounds like to me, if I ever run a fireworks company, you've been my first facilities manager on the CV list, Dave. You know, given the fact you seem to know your way around fireworks as well.
No, my job wasn't the fireworks. I can tell you what I did. Do you know those little machines you see at fairgrounds where there's a bent wire and you have to trace your way around it without setting the current and the bell going off? Yeah. I built one of those.
You built it?
Well, it's a battery, isn't it? And a piece of wire. So I built it's an exaggeration. It's bolting together a few components.
I actually missed out on doing physics at school. I just dropped out. So you'd be a great physics teacher too, by all accounts.
I was a physics teacher for a while.
Oh, was that yeah, and you know life quite well.
So I did that. I think it was probably 10p a go or something like that to try and get round and win a prize. Yeah. So that was my contribution.
Lovely. We do have a question actually from. Oh, by the way, James has came back very, very kindly with a drink which I'm not actually familiar with. Maybe you can help me. He said in your virtual bar, Dave, he would go for London Porter.
Oh yes, I'm a big porter and stout drinker, so I think that's a good choice.
There you go, James. If you bring ID to the virtual bar, I'm sure the bouncer will let you in. So yes, we do have another question actually from Michael Joyce. Thank you, Michael, for getting in touch. So he's asking, what would you choose if you had been invited to play a sporting celebrity cricket match or watch Sutton in an end-of-season playoff game?
Would I prefer to play in a celebrity cricket match or watch Sutton in a playoff game?
Correct, yeah.
On the basis that under Doswell, we lost every playoff game I think just about we played in. and as I'm a massive cricket fan, if the celebrities playing in it were cricketers, not showbiz people, I couldn't give monkeys about showbiz people. If they were cricketers, I would have played in the cricket match.
Just remember, this is live. I can't edit out swear words, Dave. But
yeah, so that's why
feel free.
I did change to monkeys. Yes, I was going to say.
I'm sure the supporters appreciated that. I must also remind you. You say you're a big cricket fan. Do you remember who the last time Scotland and England played at cricket? What the score was and who won?
Yeah, that would be a win for Scotland again, wouldn't it?
It is correct. Yeah, you're doing really well tonight in these ones.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm selecting the right sport.
I think her accent is a hint.
I think it might be. I think the subscribers who are very much used to on a Thursday night being greeted with my lovely, lovely Glaswegian dulcet tones, I think they're all used to that by now. And bear in mind, guys, like I say every single week, if you do have any comments, whether it be abuse, feel free to just fire at me. That's what I'm here for. I'm your blank canvas to paint on. So yes, without further ado, as we continue, I'm sure the listeners will have many more questions as we progress. So, of course, you're on the management committee there, and that involved like kind of social events. It involved like you were saying the fireworks, but among many others. You then made the step up to be a role as the chairman of the Centenary Committee. Now, can you give us in layman's terms what that involved?
Oh yes. But before that had happened, I'd already taken over as club secretary from Ralph Carr.
Oh, okay.
So I was heavily involved then in doing a lot of the work around signing players, for example. And Dave Hermitage, about two and a half years before the centenary was due back in '98, we were talking in the committee, and he said, right, we want to make sure we do this right. Let's set it up now.
Yeah.
Dave, would you like to chair the Centenary Committee? As you've already written a couple of books about the club anyway, because I've written books about the cup runs that we'd had. He said, would you like to get some people involved and set up a committee? So we did. We set up a committee of probably about 10 or 12 people to try and run the Centenary, and we came up with a logo. We did a dinner down at the hotel at Bear Green. We had Centenary kits designed, and I have to say that the quarters are still my favourite Sutton kit. Yeah. And obviously we produced the Centenary book, building on the work that had been done on the two previous history books the club had done. We did another book with all the photographs that were left over. One day I got invited over to Andrew Letzer's house.
Really?
And his garage was just a cornucopia of photographs. And he said, take whichever photographs you need, because I don't want them. And we took the photographs and we put them in the book. And that was interesting because I had to learn the skill then of using a light box to work out how to get a photograph into a page, because we didn't have computer graphics back then for me to do it on. And it was sort of fit it into the text. And I did that. And then we had so many photographs left over. So I wrote Mark Frake into it. And we spent a couple of days going through the photographs and deciding what to use. And then we put together a second book, which was called United in Pictures, which is one of the best things we did. It came out looking so professional that I'm really, really proud of that. I thought we did really well with that book.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I mean, I think it's all very well and good having the right content, having like pertinent content to what the topic is. But I actually work in marketing myself. That's my kind of bread and butter. And my job is basically to make things, well, the content's got to be spot on, it's got to be very, very relevant, and it's got to be very, very good and of a high quality. It doesn't really matter unless it's eye-catching. So it's got, like you say, presentation of what the club's meant to be like is very important too.
Yeah, I've got in front of me the first book that I did for the club, which was Sutton United in the Isthmian League 63 to 86, and it's basically just a list of results and goal scorers and appearances.
Live chat, please. Who owns that book? Come on, guys, own up.
It's all the information that you wanted there. But it looks like what it is. It's a home-produced book that's been sent to a rank Xerox or something to print and staple together. Does the job, but it's not what you can sell in the shops. Whereas I think what we did later with stuff that we were actually able to sell in WH Smith's was much higher quality. Yeah.
It sounds like the kind of ideal stocking gift for every Sutton fan. Do you not agree?
Yes, I made sure that I've got mine in front of me because someone's going to ask me a question about one of the games and I want to make sure that I get the year right.
I'm sure all the participants in this video will be happy to tell me if they have that, if they own that particular journal, that book of all the results, So please do own and identify yourselves, please. So yes, that was obviously when you became chairman, and being club secretary and company secretary. You've also been promoted to club chairman within that time, so you've clearly been climbed the ladder very, very naturally, very organically, and like it seems like there's been a real, almost like a structure to your time at Sutton. How's it been for you? Like you must have seen the club grow from strength to strength over that time. Like, do you feel that your influence was from a more marketing angle, or like what kind of key skills do you think you brought? Because what you do is voluntary. Still,
yeah,
I don't think that's appreciated all the time, you know?
No, I think it's different being chairman. Up until the point that... So after the Centenary Committee, my reward for that, if you like, was I was asked to become a director. Mm. So I served as a director with Barry Applin as chairman of the board.
Yeah.
Until, sadly, we lost Barry the year we won the Isthmian League under Doz. Mm. Very, very sudden. Left a big hole in the club. Everyone was really surprised. But the directors wanted to make sure that we carried on with the way we were going, appointed someone from within. So I got voted into the role as chairman of the board. Mm. And up to that point, I got where I was because I'm an administrator.
Yeah.
I like numbers. I like facts and figures. I like doing things. I'm a physicist. I'm a scientist, so I follow the rules. So I'd run football clubs, I'd run cricket clubs. Sutton United was just bigger than what I'd run before, and so being secretary of that was fine.
Yeah.
The role as chairman is slightly different because you have other people doing those jobs. Mm. And it's much more about being the coordinator, the person that encourages, tries to see where we're going. So the way we're set up, as we've said before, if you compare us to a PLC, Bruce is the chief exec running the business, and I'm the chairman of the PLC looking at the governance. So part of the role of the directors is to look at where we're going to be this time next week, next year, 10 years' time.
Yeah.
Whereas part of the role of the chief executive is making sure we pay today's bills.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've always worked well in partnership with Bruce, I think. Mm. And I think, I don't know, it is a different role. It's a different role to being secretary. Not as involved on a day-to-day basis with a lot of things, but obviously actually involved with everything. Mm. It's hard to put it in words.
I do see what you mean there. It's important to have like a symbiotic relationship with your co-directors, your chairman. Like, if you don't have that, it's very hard to forge a way together that's unified.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I'm quite pleased with the way things have gone. So this is my 9th season as chairman of the board. Mm. Had things gone to plan, I was probably going to look to give that up after 10 years. But the way things are now, I think that might change because we're in such a strange position. Mm. But one thing that's pleased me is I think a board of directors needs to evolve and keep up to date with trends and technologies and what's going on in the world outside the football club.
Yeah.
And in my 9 years as chairman of the board, we've brought in 7 new directors.
Yeah.
And I think they all fit in really well.
Yeah.
So I'm quite pleased with that the board has evolved, because I think the danger is, and you see it at some clubs, where the same people now are on the committee that were there 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And the club is in the same place that it was 15 years ago. Probably got back. And I think everything needs to be refreshed and evolved. I mean, I don't want to be chairman of the board when I'm 90. I'm sure nobody else wants me to be chairman of the board.
I'll do it if you want.
Yeah, someone can come forward.
Yeah. Excellent. I mean, obviously that kind of promotes me like further on the conversation to like more chat about. I suppose like given with great power within the club comes great responsibility, and that a huge part of that role and your remit is our managerial appointments. Now, of course, every club will go through some good, some not so good, some chaotic. As you see in the Premier League, a manager's got like a half-life of maybe generally about 7-8 months now, and if they have 3 bad results on the spin, they face very, very dire consequences, having spent maybe a lot of money in some cases. So, of course, we had a chat earlier on. Can you like enlighten the listeners here? Because I don't know myself. What is involved in appointing a manager? What process do you follow? Do you go through an agency? I mean, obviously to replace Matt, that's just one example. Like, is it via an agency? Do you get CVs in via recruitment agencies? I don't know. Like, it's a question I think a lot of the subscribers would like to know the answer to.
Okay, I can only tell you how we do it at Sutton.
Yeah.
Obviously not been involved anywhere else. But what I can say is, if supporters think it's a scientific and analytical process where you automatically appoint the best manager who's going to do the best job,
yeah,
unlucky. There is an enormous amount of chance involved in appointing a manager, and you see that up at the highest levels. Look at the trouble Arsenal and Manchester United have had replacing the two managers that they had for a long time. With all the money in the world really to throw at the job, they haven't found the right person. They haven't got the results subsequently that they were hoping for.
Yeah.
So how do we do it? We've done a couple of ways. A couple of times we have advertised.
Yeah.
A couple of times we haven't. We've waited to see who'd apply. I think after Paul Doswell left last year, we had a quick meeting and decided, actually, we are now such a high-profile club that anyone that we seriously want to be our manager is going to know the job's available and is going to apply. And that was what happened. Within days, we were getting applications from all sorts of people, some of which were laughable.
Yeah.
Others of which were very serious candidates, the sort of people that fans on the forum were saying, we should be appointing X, Y and Z.
Yeah.
What they didn't know was that some of X, Y and Z were looking for £100,000 a year salaries, with double the playing budget that we had under Paul Doswell.
Yeah.
And actually, if you look at their record as a manager in this league, well, they hadn't done as well as Paul.
Yeah, of course.
So why would we appoint them?
Yeah, exactly.
No names, but you look and you think, no. So we looked around and we narrowed it down to 2 or 3 people, and we had long conversations with those people. And obviously Matt was at the club, and I think this has already been mentioned before. We spoke to Jamie Collins, we spoke to the senior players, we spoke to people that knew Matt, and they said, actually, that's a good shout.
Yeah.
He'll fit in. We like him as players. We like the training sessions. They're fresh. They're innovative. He knows the game. He's got contacts. And so we thought, actually, everyone that's applied, he's got the best CV and fit to what we're looking for. He understands the game. He's only mid-30s still, but he's got a wealth of experience. He's got qualifications galore. Very highly respected within the game, and he knows people.
Yeah.
And it's very important at this level of football that you know people that you can go and ask for loans, or you can ask them to do scouting for you. Again, without mentioning names, we've got at least one appointment that we've made that I can think of where quite clearly his scouting book of players probably ended in about 1973. And signing people was just really, really not going to happen. And we made the decision. Everyone had told us it was the right manager to appoint, and it wasn't. Yeah. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. And you'd like to think you get it right more often than not, but there are no guarantees. But no, we don't use agents. My view of agents in football is a bit like Shakespeare's of the lawyers. I don't think they add anything. I understand why players do need them to protect their interests, because players were exploited for so long. But I think there is so much self-interest in the way players are promoted. We get emails on an almost daily basis from agents plugging players. He's exactly the player you want. That's not how we recruit. We recruit on the manager going to look at someone and scouting them and getting reports back and hearing what their character's like and saying, yes, that player does a role that will fit into my team.
I think generally speaking, and my own take on it is that I appreciate your expertise is much higher than mine, but I actually used to, when I first moved to London, I was a recruitment consultant, and it was only when I was on the inside of that industry I realised how grubby, how KPI driven, how horrible it was, and how dog eat dog. It's like you say, and I quote you there, self-interest is what maybe drives these agents to, I mean, of course it's profit, ultimately. It's avarice, it's greed, it's profit. It's all they care about is money, in my own opinion, and I'm just an outsider. But, so I think in terms of how you do it, you've got to trust, as you say, A, trust your manager, B, understand that he has and respect the fact that he's got a good contact book, and C, that he is respected throughout the game. So those are three key criterions, really.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I'm of the same age as Mickey Joyce and that team that played through the 80s.
Yeah.
And we've played quite a lot of people out the youth team.
Yeah.
And they'd come in, they'd sit on the bench, they might get 10 minutes, then the next game they might get half an hour, then there might be a match that wasn't that important, you know, we were going to finish mid-table or something, and they'd start.
Yeah.
And they really loved the experience. And then it moved on. So I can remember, again, no names, but a player out the youth team was asked to come and sit on the first team bench. And his agent, this player's 17, his agent said he's not going to sit on the first team bench till you give him a contract. Well,
yeah.
Perhaps I'm old-fashioned, but
you've got to prove it first, don't you?
To me, yeah.
Yeah,
and
of
if
course.
He's good, fine, great guys, you know. We'll talk turkey, but you know,
exactly.
17.
It's funny. We actually have a few comments from Mickey Joyce. There, as what you were saying. Mickey Joyce wants me to conduct the rest of this interview in a Dublin accent, whereas James King wants me to conduct it in a Cardiff accent. So I don't know where that comes from. I think it's because I'm very, very proudly Scottish. So I think it's quite clear I'm not from either of those cities. I'm a Glaswegian. So yeah, I'll tell you what, guys. If you want to toss a coin between the two of you and come back with one city, I will conduct the rest of this interview in that accent, in that regional accent. So the floor is yours, guys.
Oh dear, it'll be fun. You can do Welsh, because much to my enormous surprise, I found out about 5 years ago I'm 25% Welsh.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Would you have played for them in the international cricket or football team if you had the choice?
I'd have played for out of Mongolia if they'd offered me international cap.
Yeah.
I was about as far from being an international sportsman as I am from being a leading Hollywood star.
I'm sure that's still life in the old dog yet, you know? Maybe you can... But yeah, I mean, out of Mongolia, with all due respect, probably would have a better chance of qualifying for a major tournament than Scotland might. So, you know, it's a good position to be in. There is actually a question from James with regards to managerial appointments. Is it true that in the 1970s, the club had some very high-profile applications for the manager role?
I wasn't on the management committee then, so I wouldn't have been privileged to that information, but I believe at least one England international tried to be manager. Yes.
Wow. Okay. Do you not know who that is now?
No, because I might be wrong.
Oh, okay.
So I wouldn't want to name him, but so I believe that an England international was interested, but I wasn't involved on the management committee then, and I didn't know who applied for the roles.
Another question from Mickey Joyce. What position would you have played in if you were a player, and who excited you the most on the pitch over the years?
I ended up as a centre-half playing Sunday football, a low standard of Sunday football, for two reasons. One, I couldn't run. I never could run quickly. And secondly, I was quite good at reading the game. So playing centre-half, just off the big fella, is an easy role to play on a Sunday morning. So I ended up doing that. So I started off as a centre-forward. Again, no great pace, but I could score goals. And at school, I scored loads of goals. So I'd have liked to have been a centre-forward. The player that excited me, I have to say, more than any other Sutton United player I've seen, and it's been mentioned before, it was mentioned last week, is Norman Mill.
Okay.
6 foot and a lot. Built like the proverbial outhouse. Seen him, you'd have thought, footballer? Oh, he's a centre-half. No nonsense centre-half.
Yeah.
This big guy had the touch of Lionel Messi.
Wow. Mark
Frakes already told you about the goal he got at Bishop Stortford. But the two things that stick out in my mind beyond that are a hat-trick that he scored at home to Hayes in 1978, home to Staines rather. We beat them 5-1. And he scored one of the best hat-tricks you'll ever see. I think 2 of the goals would have won goal of the season if we'd had cameras in those days.
Nice.
And the other time was 6-a-side tournament. Many of our older fans will remember at the end of the season, we used to run a 6-a-side tournament. Started off in the rec, and there were matches played on the main pitch, and the finals were always on the main pitch about 6 o'clock in the evening. It was about 64 teams. And if you could be the worst Sunday team in the world, but you could end up playing Sutton United in the first round.
Nice. So I could play then, yeah?
Yeah, anybody played. I mean, I played in it, and you know, we came up against Sutton reserves one time and got thrashed. But I remember Norman Milne playing in this, and he got the ball, and he dribbled past the entire opposition team and got to the goal line, put his foot on the ball, turned around, went back to his own goal line, then did it again and beat everybody before scoring. Just because he could.
In fairness, that does sound like me on a Saturday morning. So yeah, maybe it was me as well.
Norman was an absolutely cracking player to watch. We weren't the greatest side in those days. We were mid-table, but you'd have paid admission money to watch Norman. He was just a fabulous footballer.
I must say, there is a degree of agreement in the live chat right now. You've got Julian Rosario, who has came back to say, who opines that Norman Milne was much better than Joycey. Controversial, eh?
Even Mick would probably agree that Norman had more skill, but Joycey was always going to score more goals than Norman.
Always going to score more goals. Michael Joycey Mickey can come back with he's going to come back with a equally as opposing comment to that maybe. So yeah.
And I have to say, I was really, really saddened last year to hear that Norman had actually passed away at a relatively young age. So sometimes you do hear some of these players that you remember, they're not that old. You hear, oh, that's sad, and that was a shame. So we missed Norman. We wanted to get him down to Sutton, but unfortunately he was living in Scotland and he was quite ill and he couldn't travel down.
Oh, right, okay.
People have talked about a lot of the players and the incidents that they've seen and they remember. And I was trying to think of some of the things that I've seen that weren't necessarily the same repeated incidents that people would come up with. So I remember a game at Sutton, and everyone remembers the goals, but a lot of people will remember Mark Golly.
Mark Golly, yeah.
Mark Golly. And he played in every shirt number for Sutton except goalkeeper.
Yeah.
I remember one game that Barry Williams decided to start Mark up front. I think it was against Hayes, and Mark scored a hat-trick from centre forward.
Yeah.
But he was best known for his defensive capabilities. And there was one game when the ball broke for the opposition in front of the Collingwood goal. It must have been dead centre, about 8 yards out, and it's a goal.
Goal, yeah.
Except suddenly this figure comes sliding in from the player's right, down on one knee with his other leg stretched out in front of him, not only blocked the shot, controlled the ball, stood up, came out the other side with the ball and calmly played the ball out of defence and started an attack.
Yeah.
And it's stuck in my mind for over 30 years. And that is quite comfortably the best tackle I've ever seen. Lovely.
I mean, actually, I was going to say I'd like to maybe get some, if it's in the archive somewhere, I'd like to have a little view of the clip. One of the best tackles actually.
A lot of these precede our days of videoing things, of course. So.
Of course, yeah. Ah, well, I mean, that reinforces the message. You have to pay into the games even now or else you might miss out on equally as joyous moments such as that tackle.
Well, and it's not only the games themselves. I remember the supporters club the committee used to meet down the ground every Thursday night for a drink. We'd have a meeting every month, but we'd meet down there for a chat on a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And the players train on a Thursday night. And I remember going out there once and watching the players, and they just finished their session.
Yeah.
But Ricky Kidd, who many people will know, decided to stay behind. And all he did, he stood on the 18-yard line with two other players, and they would throw the ball at him, but over his head. And as it went over his head, he would turn around and volley it. And virtually everyone went in past the goalkeeper. Wow. And he did that for about 10 minutes. He wasn't the tallest player, but Ricky could head a ball.
Yep.
If it got there, he knew where it was going. He had really strong neck muscles. If he headed a ball and if it was in front of goal, it would either go in or the goalkeeper would have to save it. It wouldn't end up going into Gander Green Lane somewhere. Yeah. And people said, well, but it was practice. It was practice and practice and practice that these players did, and it was fun watching them. And I'm sure they practice now, of course they do, even more because they're full-time professionals. But these guys were amateurs, remember. They were doing this in almost their spare time.
Of course, you were saying it does precede the days of when there would be like week-to-week coverage of then non-league football in our Isthmian League. But as here at SUFCtv, we are always keen to kind of collect as much archive footage as we can. So if anyone does have footage hiding in the loft or in the back cupboard, we want it. Please do send it in to us if anyone out there does seem.
I think it's great now. The fact that we can have this video footage that people can watch the highlights, that people can see if they, did they at the game did what they think happened. But also the people that are overseas, people that can watch from Hong Kong and Australia and America. Can see the games and they feel involved. And we get a lot of comments from people saying, I tuned in last night, what a great woman that was at Hartlepool, and they're in Australia. So that's great. It's a shame we didn't have that back then, because I think it's hard for people to realise now how good the amateur game was in the 60s and 70s. There were players playing. I mean, Sutton had a great team. Wickham had a fantastic team. Okay, they took half of them from Sutton, but they had a fantastic team. Enfield, Hendon, footballers now would be in the Football League, but they didn't turn pro back then because the Football League clubs weren't paying enough money to make it worthwhile giving up their professional career to go and play football in Division 2 or 3. Yeah.
Of course, that would be the case, wouldn't it? And then, of course, you then get the idea that, I suppose, even nowadays, like non-league now has got the National League's got a contract with BT Sport to show the games. That probably gets us equal coverage, if not more, than the Scottish game. So it only serves to remind us all how the National League has come on leaps and bounds in the last 10 or so years in terms of coverage, in terms of broadcasting. So nowadays we live in completely digital times, which wasn't the case back when, like you said, the amateur game was probably at its peak.
Yeah, I mean, it was a different game. It was a slower game, but some of the players had real quality. Yeah. I mean, we were lucky at Sutton. We had a forward line, Trevor Bladen on the right-hand side. I mean, would he be worth in the game now? A winger that could score 30 goals a season every season. Yeah. We had Terry Howard on the other wing that would score double figures, 20 goals a season as well. Had Larry Pritchard scoring 20 goals from midfield. And that's without your two main strikers up front, Peter Drabble and Mick Mellows. Mm-hmm. I mean, the forward line just absolutely laced with goals. There's some fabulous players. I mean, Mick Mellows gets overlooked when people talk about the best Sutton strikers because he wasn't with us long enough to perhaps score the number of goals that Mick Joyce or McKinnon got. But he played for Sutton as a teenager. Every club in the country wanted him. Arsenal wanted him. Chelsea wanted him. Yeah. But he wanted to finish his education. Yeah. A super player.
Interesting. And then you've then got, so of course, legends like Mickey Joyce has got in touch again. Mickey Joyce is bit back in his comparison with Norman Milne to say that he was better looking.
I think Mickey knows which one would probably have had more success down the disco on a Saturday night.
What do you say to that, Mickey? Come on, give us something back. I'm sure he's going to bite back in the comments. So yeah, now the next kind of question I've got for you, and we spoke about this briefly earlier on in this conversation. Now, I'm a Scotsman, therefore I do take pride in the managers we produce. There was a point about maybe 10 years ago, in the Premier League, there was 7 Glaswegian managers in the top flight. You had Alex Ferguson, Kenny Dalglish, Steve Keane, Paul Lambert, Owen Coyle, and I think you had 2 more. Alan Irvine, maybe?
David Moyes.
David Moyes, of course, at Everton, yeah. And there was one more, I can't quite remember who it was. Did I say Steve Keane? I think I did. So yeah, of course you have come into contact with a certain Mr. Bruce Rioch, formerly of Arsenal.
Yeah, that was an interesting night. I mean, Mark Frake talked about the cup run and the game at Middlesbrough as the best Sutton United performance he'd ever seen.
Wow.
And I have to say, I agree. Our performance at Middlesbrough that night was outstanding. We were probably slightly lucky to get away with a draw in the first leg at Sutton, but in the replay we were really excellent. And Paul Rodgers that night was out of this world. How anybody didn't snap him up immediately after that game, I was amazed. Yeah. I know he was in a good job at the time, and obviously did turn pro and had a good career. But he was superb. But after the game, I was in the boardroom, and I went outside to do what you need to do after you've been drinking a little bit for the evening. And I was standing in the corridor at the old Ayrton Park ground looking at the photographs on the wall. You know, old Middlesbrough players, you know, they staged World Cup matches there. So I was just soaking up the history. And I got a tap on the shoulder. Turned around and it was Bruce Rioch, who was Middlesbrough manager at the time. And just as he started speaking to me, Paul Rodgers joined the conversation. And then Phil Dawson, who also played midfield that night, came along. Yeah. And Bruce Rioch said, would you like a guided tour of the stadium? So he, the manager of the home team, took me, Curly and Phil Dawson on a guided tour. Down to the gym, took us all around. And all the time there's Phil Dawson going, you want to sign me, don't you? The reason we're doing this is you want to sign me. You want to sign me, Mr. Rioch.
Yeah. What an ulterior... It's not about an ulterior motive to have, to be fair, you know. Did Bruce let you try on his specs? No.
Bruce Rioch had a reputation. I mean, I first knew of him when I was a young lad because he scored 40 odd goals in the season as a striker down with Luton Town or something like that. And he had a bit of a reputation as a manager of being quite dour. But that evening, he couldn't have been a better host after the game. He was bubbling about his club, bubbling about the match, about the way Sutton had played. A really good host.
Yeah. Oh, well, shout out to Bruce. Bruce, if you're listening, you're welcome down GGL anytime you like. And I'm sure Mr. Farebrother will give you a guided tour of Gander Green Lane at your disposal.
Yeah,
So,
indeed.
well, hopefully this interview gets out to him. I've got a comment here from Tom Mitchell, who's my colleague at SUFCtv. His grandfather is a Middlesbrough fan, and he remembers Sutton being absolutely superb that night. It's funny because Tom's actually an avid Newcastle fan, so I don't know what Christmas is like in that household whenever they play each other.
As Mark said, we got a standing ovation from the home crowd after that game.
Yeah, was that when it was Ayrton Park? Yeah.
Sorry?
Was that when it was Ayrton Park? Yeah.
That was Ayrton Park. Yeah. So one of the grounds used in the World Cup. Yeah.
Oh, class! That's amazing. That's referenced in. Have you ever seen the film The Damned United?
Bits of it.
Yeah, it's one of the best British films I've ever seen. Fantastic. But Brian Clough references how he used to play at Ayrton Park. He was a Middlesbrough striker, of course. But back in the day.
He played for Middlesbrough and had a fantastic goal scoring record. Interestingly, I set the quiz we did last week or the week before, and I noticed someone put on the forum, the hardest question was the striker who's averaged 2 goals a game for England. And that was a Middlesbrough player called George Campsell.
Yeah, that's right.
And he was actually the guy that discovered Brian Clough.
Really?
So there is a sort of link, yeah.
I think there is a kind of rich football culture up in the northeast in that particular area of the country. I mean, you've got Don Revie grew up a few streets away from Brian Clough, and that's yep, and that's a fact you would know if you watched the film. So I think he's some BBC iPlayer.
I need to catch up with it. I'm probably biased against Leeds because obviously when I was 11 years old, they knocked us out of the FA Cup.
Of course, yeah.
And when we played them 3 years ago, I remember thinking to myself, 11-year-old me watching Sutton get taken apart 6-0 by the team of David Harvey, Paul Reaney, all that, Billy Bremner, would never have dreamt that 47 years later we'd be playing them again in the same round of the FA Cup and win. And
beating them, exactly. That's probably if you arguably the crowning achievement in the last.
I thoroughly enjoyed that day. I mean, as you and I were talking earlier, the next round against Arsenal is arguably the biggest night in the club's history.
Yeah.
We've heard within the club estimates from the TV companies that 200 million people watch that game live.
200 million people.
We've got a bigger audience on that Monday night than EastEnders on BBC. And
I bet I'm happy with that. Yeah.
You'd expect that game, therefore, to be one of my highlights of my time watching Sutton United, and I hated it. I hated every single minute of it.
Why?
I was safety officer at the time. Fortunately, I'm not now. We've got a professional safety officer, and our safety standards have moved on. I just felt that any instant something was going to go wrong, and it was going to be on me.
Yeah.
It's strange the way policing of a football ground works. The police will look after everything that's going on outside the ground. Mm-hmm. If people are breaking the law, they'll act within the ground. But, for example, we had people... there was one guy, he must have been 20 stone if he was an ounce, who climbed up onto the roof of the extension to the main hall.
Can I just digress? I was trying to lose weight at that time in my life.
I hope you had. It had a few sherbets as well.
Yeah, okay.
And that is only a lath and plaster ceiling. Now, he could have gone through that, done himself a load of damage. It would have been our fault because we'd not stopped him getting up there.
Yeah.
The police told me he was doing it, but it was our job to get him down because it was a civil matter, not a criminal matter.
Yeah.
And therefore the police would only stand and watch so that they could help if he attacked me, but they wouldn't do anything to get him down. And it was just incident like that, time after time throughout the match. If you remember at the end, the fans rang on, and I saw someone running towards Arsene Wenger, so my immediate instinct was to just put myself in the way.
Yeah.
I didn't enjoy the game. I've not watched it back. I keep meaning to watch it back, but a bit like Paul Doswell for different reasons. I've just not found the enthusiasm to watch that match back at all yet. So what should have been the highlight of my time watching Sutton United actually probably isn't. The Middlesbrough game, the Coventry game, when I was maybe the calmest person on the ground because I had this gut feeling we were going to win. We bet on the game in the days when you could bet on football if you were a club official, and we made enough money to buy all the drinks all night long, which was good.
Mm-hmm.
The Leeds game, beating Leeds, I thoroughly remember as an absolute highlight before the Arsenal game. Although I do think it was a bit of a come down. I was probably the only chairman of the board in the fourth round of the FA Cup who ended up shoveling horse manure out the car park.
Yeah. I was going to say, and can we? So just for the listeners can get a clear picture of what it was like for those both experiences. You've said they're quite polarised in the sense that you love the Leeds game, but the Arsenal game is harder to enjoy. You're actually not alone there. Tom Mitchell has said he was covering the game for the SUFCtv. He said he's glad you mentioned that, as he found the Arsenal game stressful, whereas the Leeds game was so much better. Can we take for a second those two games in isolation? The Leeds game for a start. Can you describe what it was like meeting the Leeds board? Like, what actually happens in a boardroom and like when you go for a drink with these guys? Like, was it Gary Monk was in charge of Leeds at that point?
Yeah. Now it started. Obviously, we talked to the police. We talked to all sorts of authorities when the game's being arranged.
Yeah.
And we were warned by all sorts of people. Oh dear, you don't want to play this. The Leeds fans, they're dreadful. They're going to cause all sorts of problems. You know, it's not a game you want. So we were in touch, and I was in touch with people from Leeds on their supporters club, and we went through the arrangements, and they said, no, it's all, everyone that goes will be a validated member of our supporters club, show their card, so we know who everyone is, we manage it all. We got really well with them. They brought some of their own stewards down to look after it, and their fans, although they were really, really annoyed and disappointed with the way their team played that day and getting knocked out by a non-league club, they were excellent.
Yeah.
The game went off exactly as we planned it. No problems. From our point of view, we won, so it's a great day. Only 2 or 3 of the Leeds directors turned up. Not surprisingly, so for them.
Was it the Italian boy?
I can't remember who turned up.
Trezani or something? Yeah.
Because I was the safety officer, I only really went into the boardroom at the end of the game.
Yeah.
So I was busy during the rest of the afternoon. But they were great about it. They said, you've been very polite to us. Your hospitality's been good. We've enjoyed the afternoon. Not the result. Good luck in the next round. And they were magnificent.
Yeah.
As for Arsenal, the Arsenal people, I have to say, were completely and utterly different class.
Yeah.
As I think people might expect from Arsenal.
They've got a reputation, I suppose, globally for being quite classy. And even their arch enemies like Roy Keane in his book even stressed the fact that whenever he went to Highbury or the Emirates, he just sensed class around the place, like a kind of dignity, or like as if they had something to protect, and they were proud to protect it.
Well, one of their directors, one of the older directors, he said, going to Green Lane had got quite busy. It was quite difficult to drive down leading up to kick-off. He probably should have got there earlier.
Yeah. So
he got out and walked to make sure he made kick-off.
Oh, really? Yeah.
And he walked through this crowd, and we were talking to him afterwards, and he said, blah, 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 this is what happened. And we said, oh, sorry about that. He said, no, don't apologise. It reminded me of the old days of going to games at Highbury.
Yeah.
Where you walk with the crowd and you can feel the anticipation. And it reminded me sort of what it was like to actually go to a proper football match. He said, nowadays I turn up 3 hours before the game. I have a meal in a nice restaurant with West End food.
Yeah.
I watch the game from comfort. I don't experience what I used to when I was a fan.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And he really enjoyed it.
I think that's interesting. I mean, the fact that Arsenal directors, like the world famous Arsenal, at the time they Walcott, and like a team full of internationals on such a globally recognised scale, the fact that the directors were using that kind of level of pathos to really paint the picture of like what it's like for them on a regular match day, comparing to what it was like going to little old Sutton, And I feel like, I mean, it does sound like they're full of class. Did you meet Ivan Gazidis and anything? Oh.
I think Bruce did, but as I say, I was safety officer, so I was running around all over the place. And by the time I got up to the boardroom, most of their guys had gone.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and in terms of like, did you get a chance to become to say to Arsene Wenger, look, here I'm the safety officer, like anything?
No, I didn't. Unfortunately, no. I got close to him. I didn't get a chance to speak to him or any of the Arsenal players, which is disappointing. I do recall. I know Bruce spoke to him. Yeah. I remember Bruce saying that. You brought Alexis Sanchez on. You were 2-0 up. Why did you risk your most expensive player? And Wenger said, I thought your fans might like to watch him play.
Oh, nice.
And I do remember one ball played out of defence that was hit at Sanchez at about 100 miles an hour, and he killed it with one touch. And he then sprinted up the pitch with the ball and without breaking stride played a 30-yard pass that most people would struggle to play if they were standing still.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's probably why you were one of the best players at the last World Cup.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen anybody do something like that with a football.
In 2014 World Cup, he was scintillating. He was outstanding, you know.
He was. I thought he was arguably one or two best players at that World Cup.
Yeah, he was in the team that eliminated Spain as well. So he was. It wasn't like he was playing for I suppose a team that can be kind of described as a dark horse in many respects, but he was one of the leading players, you know. And then you've got James King on the live chat here is saying that he is told, according to mythical legend down Sutton Way, their coach stunk of aftershave perfume. Now I don't know who in the Arsenal squad was wearing perfume, but that's down to total interpretation of other personalities in the team are like.
So, I hadn't heard that one.
Well, now you know. My guess would be. Who would my guess be? Maybe Walcott, possibly. Don't know. I actually can't remember the players of that generation anymore because Arsenal just.
Walcott scored, of course, but
I remember that. Yeah, of course. So also that was a highlight, especially like given the fact that it's not often you're on the BBC prime time on a Monday evening, you know.
Yeah.
So that's probably the highlight of, I suppose, your career at Sutton. Now, we spoke earlier on about, for some reason, and I don't know why, what the reason for this would be. Wycombe Wanderers away, back when it was not Adams Park, before that, was your favourite away day and away stadium to visit. I as well as the followers here, want to know why.
Okay, now I think Mark Farebrother asked this question. He talked about some of the grounds in East London, the Walthamstows and the Barkings, which when I they looked like proper football grounds because they had terracing and they had big stands, and I was quite in awe of them. I was quite small. But they weren't necessarily the best supported sides. When you went to Wycombe in the early 70s, first of all, they had the best amateur team in the country. Mm-hmm. As I said before, 5 of those players came from Sutton, but they supplemented with them with players like Keith Searle and John Delaney, who were just top amateur players. Mm. They won the 3 years running and thoroughly deserved to.
Is that Keith Currell? Yeah.
Searle with an S.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
No, he was an England amateur striker that well before you were born.
Yeah, okay.
And Wycombe had loads of good players. I could probably still name that Wycombe team from 50 years ago, if you asked me to. And at Lokes Park, they'd have a crowd of 3,000 in there.
Wow.
And it was just, for me, that was like going to, wow, this is real football. This is big crowd. And I remember thinking to myself, it was almost, if they had a corner, there were so many people behind the goal they were attacking. It was almost as if they were sucking the ball into the net.
Yeah.
And I just thoroughly enjoyed going to Wycombe every year. They moved to Adams Park, which in many ways was a nicer ground, obviously. But that's probably the seed of one of my biggest disappointments in football. We went there in '93. I think it was the day of the Grand National that never was.
Okay.
And it was the Alan Gain team, which on its day played some of the best football I've ever seen from a Sutton side. They could play some great stuff when they wanted to. They seemed to reserve it for the cup. And they went to Wycombe that day, and Wycombe were going to win the league. They were going to. They ended up doing the double. Martin O'Neill was the manager.
Yeah.
And Wycombe were just a very, very good side. We won 3-2, but we were outstanding. And if the ball had bounced our way, we'd have gone 4-1 up. Mm-hmm. At Wycombe, it didn't go in. They went the other end, made it 3-2. So we still won. And then in the first couple of minutes of the second leg at Sutton, their big centre half committed a foul, which if you saw it now, he'd have been straight off red.
Yeah.
Referee, don't do it again. 10 minutes later, he scores to level lane on aggregate, and they go on to win the second 4-0. And it's disappointing to me because I was match secretary. And the one thing that I'd wanted to do was to go down to the changing rooms at Wembley Stadium, get the team off our manager and take it to the referee at Wembley. And that was obviously the last chance I was ever going to get to do that. And I was really disappointed because I've never seen, like everybody else, I've never seen Sutton win at Wembley. That's my ambition, is to see Sutton win at Wembley. And I'm running out of chances, you know.
I think we almost got to the playoffs in 2018, didn't we? To the playoff final if we managed to, because the
playoffs. I'd settle for winning the playoffs. I want to see us win the trophy, but I'd settle for winning the playoffs.
Of course, 2018 is probably the last, and certainly in the National League setup, where we proverbially came closest to it, because we beat Aldershot to finish in the playoffs. on the final game of the season.
Yeah.
And then, of course, beyond then, it just kind of fell apart against Bournemouth, was it? I think it was Bournemouth.
Bournemouth played very well on the day. We just didn't click. But even then, I think with virtually the last kick of the game, we were going to equalise, and their goalkeeper made a stunning save to keep it 3-2.
Yeah,
and we could have extra time out of that when we probably didn't deserve to. And I think if it had gone to extra time, we might have won.
See, interesting. Okay. So yeah, I mean, of course, those are all kind of high points. It's not an easy question to ask this because I know it's quite hard to invoke a negative memory when the conversation is going so nicely. But what would you say? What the listeners are very, very keen to know is what would be the lowest point of your Sutton supporting career, whether it be in your capacity as chairman, as club secretary, programme contributor, or just a supporter. What would be the lowest point? It's difficult, eh?
Yeah, two things. From a football perspective,
was it meeting James King? Actually, is one of those meeting James King? No,
it's quite a difficult thing to get over. But I would say the lowest point's probably relegation from Conference South.
Okay.
We weren't very good. We deserved to go down, and I think we had not realised quite what was happening in terms of the way other clubs were moving forward. It was really, really disappointing to see the way we played, because we're not a club that should have been looking at relegation from that league, I don't think, and we deserve to be relegated. So that was disappointing. The other thing I find difficult still is I don't know if I miss John Raines.
Yeah.
I remember John's debut for Sutton.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was his debut. He scored in a 5-1 win at Walton and Hersham when a guy called Alan Ives scored 4.
Wow. So
I probably saw just about every one of the goals John scored for Sutton, because I didn't miss a game for about 15 years in the 70s and 80s. Saw him lift all those trophies, got to know him. I was the match secretary when he was manager.
Yeah.
And he was an integral part of this club, and I can't believe he's not there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a terrible shame, of course. But that's obviously not having a natural disappointment.
Other than that, I'm philosophical about the disappointments on a football pitch, because it's, as Dos said, 80% of it is horrible and hope, and 20% of it is great, if you're lucky. But for most clubs, it's a lot less than 20%. We've done probably over the years, we've won the league on average every 10 years.
Yeah.
There aren't many clubs that can say that. So I think the bad times, the times you finish, maybe not relegated, but the times you finish 15th and 18th,
yeah,
they're the ones that make it worthwhile when you win a league and win a cup. And
of course, I mean, you mentioned the kind of relative success, given the fact that we have changed leagues every so often based on the fact that we've got promoted or been relegated, whether it be from the Conference South or up to the National League. But so Julian Rosario has asked, who are the 3 best players you've seen in a Sutton shirt, and your 3 favourite players of all time?
Yeah. Okay. Mark's Frank, again, refer to Mark Frank. We've watched over the same period. So Mark said last week, he asked Larry Pritchard who the best player he played with was, and he said Ted Powell. So I wouldn't argue with Larry, but I won't pick Ted. I'll say without doubt the best player I've seen in a Sutton shirt on what he's done for Sutton is Larry Pritchard.
Larry Pritchard.
Unbelievable footballer. When we played Leeds and lost 6-0, Don Reevy actually asked Larry if he'd signed for Leeds as the eventual successor to Johnny Giles.
Wow.
That's how much of an impression that Larry made. And unbelievably, the champions of England couldn't afford to make it worthwhile Larry giving up his job with the post office. And how much the game has changed. Can you imagine that now?
Imagine Liverpool trying to tempt him out of Sutton. Yeah, I just couldn't. Out of the Royal Mail. Yeah, but quite a tough ask.
Yeah, and not offering him enough. So, Larry Pritchard, in terms of what he then went on to do outside Sutton, the guest we had last week, Efan Nkoku, because although he was only with Sutton 18 months, we haven't had anybody else that's come remotely close to scoring so many goals in the top flight of English football, going to the World Cup, to winning the African Cup of Nations, to getting 28 full caps or whatever he did. But what he did outside Sutton, you'd say Efan Nkoku. Well, I think it's difficult. I mean, we've had brilliant goalkeepers. Ron Fearon, Dave Collier, Dave Roffey, Ralph Carr before my time, obviously. Defenders like John Raines. Mark Golly was now outstanding defender.
Yeah.
Midfielders like Paul Rogers, Mickey Stevens. If Mickey Stevens could run like the left winger could run, Mickey Stevens
of course.
would have been a League One or League Championship player.
Yeah.
Unbelievable skill. Everyone talks about the night we beat Leatherhead 11-1 and the goal she set up for Mickey Joyce. But I remember putting 5 past Leatherhead a few weeks earlier down there.
Yeah.
And Mickey Stevens had the fullback so much in his pocket that the fullback literally spent half the evening on his backside.
And he started crying, probably.
He couldn't work out which way Abel was going.
Yeah.
Such a good player. Paul McKinnon, Mickey Joyce, obviously, for their goal scoring as well. Before that, Trevor Bladen, I've already mentioned, 30-odd goals on a regular basis from the wing. How good have you got to be to do that?
Exactly.
And chances for other players.
It takes a special type of player. Yeah.
We've had so many good players. So my 3 favourite players, Norman Milne. Number 2. Larry
Pritchard. And number 3.
Mickey Joyce.
There you are, Mickey. So you get some recognition on the podium.
Partly that would be because both Mick and Larry have become friends.
Yeah.
As I say, Mick's roughly the same age as me. And Larry Pritchard, when I first went to watch Sutton, was outstanding. In the first game I saw and scored a goal. And one thing I'll never forget is when I got married, Larry was one of my guests that came to my wedding.
Oh, fantastic.
So when people say to you, why do you watch a non-league club and not Arsenal or Chelsea?
It's not as fun.
That doesn't happen.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You don't end up going on holiday with the guy that scored 9 goals. You don't end up inviting your superstar hero to your wedding if you support Man United.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
So, my favourite players and the best players I've seen. But as Mark said, we've seen so many good players at Sutton. We're really, really lucky. Even people that came to us and the best have been elsewhere. Players like Noel Ashford, who was a fantastic non-league international footballer.
Yeah.
I didn't appreciate till he came to Sutton at the end of his career.
Yeah.
Quite actually was.
Do you know what I think as well? I think what's worth kind of noting as well is that currently we've got Omar Bouguil, who we did last season, and who scored some magnificent goals. And he's a Lebanon international. Not many non-league clubs can boast that kind of level of.
He's a good player.
Career, you know.
In some ways, he reminds me of a guy that many fans will know called Lenny Dennis.
Yeah.
And that he actually liked to mix it with the opposition defence. And if the ball comes over and it's near the goal line, you can be fairly sure that if the ball doesn't go in the net, the defenders will be going in the net.
Yeah, of course.
And I think there's still an essence that everyone loves to see Barcelona, Man City play this lovely football.
And Celtic.
But people still like to see the blood and thunder.
Yeah.
People still like to see someone giving the effort and going into a challenge fully committed. Not fouling. I don't mean going over the top. I mean 2 players actually going for the ball full on.
Yeah.
And there's a place for everything in the game. And I think we don't want to see it edited out where you can't make a challenge.
Yeah.
As I said, I remember that Mark Golly tackle. Nowadays, he'd probably been booked for going in studs up.
Of course you would. Yeah, I mean, I think the game's changed though, hasn't it? Like even from 10 years ago, the referees will just clamp down. They'll give you a yellow card at the first sign of contact. If you're seen to go even with one foot showing studs, like literally, that's probably enough for a referee to lose their head and just think, oh, I'm losing control of the game. I better produce a card here. Like the worst referees, in my opinion, are the ones that they don't let the game flow. They blow the whistle every 5 seconds. They don't let the game flow at all. It disrupts any momentum of any. I don't know, like football's an entertainment business. It's an entertainment game. I don't think how can it be calling itself entertaining if there's constant disruption to the flow of the game? I don't understand it. No team can get momentum, and I think you're right. I think it's important to kind of drive that home that we don't have the same. We have to pick players who are now going to circumvent like that kind of level of football now. I think it's got to be. I mean, a question from Thomas Mitchell here is that assigning young, talented players and be able to develop the likes of Ajiboye, Goodliff, and Randall the way forward for the club.
I think undoubtedly. I think when you've got a manager whose strengths are coaching, I think he's already proved in 1 year that he's got an eye for a player.
Yeah.
With David Ajiboye, he came to us, and that was the first signing he made. And the first thing he said, "I want this player."
Yeah.
No manager signs 100 players and makes 100 right choices. I mean, look how many times Alex Ferguson got it wrong with players. Even good players didn't fit. But I think Matt has already shown that he's got an eye for a player. And for a club like us, getting a good young player and developing them, ideally, they do well for you and you win things. But also there's a chance that you can turn that player into a Football League player or a Premier League player, that they go on to have a good career, like Efan Koku did, and you say, we had a part in that. And if you're lucky, get some transfer fee back for it, because money is vitally important at this club. It's what the board spend most of their time now trying to work out how to save money and how to get money in.
Yeah.
So selling a good player is important. You're never going to sign a 28-year-old who's really good and sell him for money. Not from non-league.
Yeah.
You're going to sell a 19-year-old. So I think it is important. You've got to have a mix. You're not going to... In non-league football, if you have a team of 19-year-olds, you'll go down.
Yeah.
So you've got to get a mix. But David Adjuboy has shown this season, and Ben Goodliffe and Ben Wyatt, if you're good enough, you know,
you're old enough. Yeah, of course.
The enthusiasm that those players bring to the game is outstanding. And now watching Ben Wyatt play, I think every game it's 100%.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way: football's a business now, and every club, and certainly ones that are a certain kind of level, economic level, every club's a selling club. And the basic rule of business is that if you earn less money than you spend, you're going to go bust. And that's so important for a club like us to remember that, and the supporters to remember that. Obviously, we cannot go out and spend £6 million on an established international for, I don't know, Lebanon even. Like, we just can't do that. We have to develop our own and organically do it through the youth academy. And do you think the youth academies is going to be, for years to come, our key strength going forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think people need to understand the difference slightly between the academies of the type that we have and Boreham would have in non-league, the academy that Arsenal and Chelsea have.
Yeah.
Where they are hoovering up all the best players in the hope that one or two will want to be superstars.
Stockpiling them, yeah.
We are left with players who haven't reached that standard at a young age. They may go on to reach it, but at a young age they haven't been identified with the Arsenals and Chelseas as the potential superstars.
Yeah. But
they're good players, but they want to get an education as well. And our academy, the way it's set up, makes us money. So we earn income from it. So it's an important thing to us, as it covers... you don't need to be an economist to look at the number of people that come to our games, the income we get, and work out roughly what we're probably playing out for wages to work out there's going to be a disconnect.
Yeah, of course.
And we have to fill that gap in a number of ways. So that's the bar, that's sponsorships, and the academy is making a big difference there. And the more money we can make from the academy, if we get players from the academy that come into the first team, then obviously that's great. That's the ideal result. And we've got two that have been in the squad recently. We've had Bradley Pearce, and we've got forgotten the young lad's name on the left, fullback.
Bailey? No,
youngster. Initials are JM, and the name's gone out of my head.
Mine too, I've got to be honest. I think is it Jude Mason?
They're both in the squad. They're both in the academy.
Yeah, Jude Mason. Yeah.
Yeah, Jude Mason, exactly.
Thank you, Julian.
I knew the initials. I just couldn't remember. And they've both got a chance. They've got in the side. They've done well. They're still young players. They've still got a chance, when football starts again, to forge a career at Sutton and then go on to bigger things. So I think that's the ideal world. But I think what people have to look at is, if a player's career lasts 10 years on average, and there are 10 players in an outfield team, then if you just do the statistics, there's one place on average becomes available in the team on a yearly basis.
Yeah.
So on average, only one young player is going to make it a year.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that pendulum can swing and come back, though. Think about it this way. Look at the amount of players who kind of develop their careers at Sutton, then move away for, say, a bigger move, more money, better prospects, and then love it so much and they miss Sutton so much they come back. A good example and a personal one for me is Rory Deacon, who I remember before I even knew who Sutton were, to be honest, where he was at Dundee up in Scotland, and I'm a Celtic fan. And I went to see him, and I thought, he's absolutely brilliant. This boy on the right hand side. Who is he? Look him up, and of course he plays for Sutton, and he hits the bar against Arsenal. So so there's always going to be players out there who are willing to put the work in and have designs on really growing and enhancing their career elsewhere. But they'll always have that connection to the club, and that can be of real benefit to those who are in the academy, to see players above them who have literally been there, done it, progressed themselves, gone away, came back to show that it can be done. And it's really important to kind of keep that as experience,
Yeah, I think the role model aspect is really important as well. So, yeah, we're very pleased with our academy. It's running really well. Marvin's doing a great job. We're very pleased that it's expanding next year, bringing in some more boys. And we're especially pleased that it's expanding into a girls section. Because that's quite rare. Certainly at our level of football, to have a girls section of the academy.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, and it's very. I mean, the rise of women's football is undeniable. It's been it's been a great success story for the sport itself. I think to have a very healthy mix of men's and women's football. You're looking at a situation, certainly in my country, where Scotland, where like the women's international team in Scotland actually are much better and achieve many higher accolades, and they qualify for major tournaments on a regular basis than the men's team do. So that's the latest situation. You never know, that could also happen in the non-league here at Sutton. Yeah, I mean, like I say, our pointer's been strengthened and it's been really enhanced by citations in the live chat here tonight. We've got obviously Nicky Bailey, Harry Buteman, Jude Mason, Crossley Lima. I think a wealth of hungry talent is the way forward for the club, as cited by Mickey Joyce there. And Julian also agrees with that. So it appears we have unanimous verdict at the youth academy.
I think so. I think one of the things that football clubs traditionally have been very chauvinistic.
Yeah.
And I could name a lot of clubs that still are.
Yeah.
The thing is, roughly half our potential audience is female.
Yeah, of course.
So if we shut them out, we are denying ourselves potentially half of our income.
Of course, I mean, it's like anything. I mean, if you don't have any element, I suppose rule number one in business, if you don't have any element of diversity, you'll be decimated within a year, you know, because you lose out on ideas, you lose out on potential, like, even revenues. Let's face it, revenue streams, if you like you say, if you shut out that cross-section of your potential audience reach, your listenership and your viewership in terms of kind of people coming through the gates, you're going to lose out on income and interest, and that's really integral for the whole community to get involved. It's a community club, you know, community clubs need that.
And I think there's a long way to go, but I think you can see that since we've had the 3G pitch and we've had the women's and girls teams playing and training at Sutton, we are getting a more representative cross-section in the spectator base.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
I think it's noticeable. It's not 50-50, and it probably never will be, but it is more than it used to be.
There is absolutely nothing to lose in positioning yourself as a pioneer. Even, dare I say it, an iconoclastic approach to this, because how many other non-league... I mean, James King's forwarding the point, saying, wasn't Sutton one of the first clubs to admit women 100 years ago, you know? So it's clearly within our ethic and our DNA to do this.
I don't know. I do know that up until in the 70s, we didn't allow women in our boardroom, but then virtually no other club at our level did either.
Yeah,
which is, you look at that, it's incomprehensible that anyone would do that, but it was commonplace.
I mean, it was commonplace even back then. I mean, you could walk into a bar in any kind of suburb of London and they would only have male toilets. And then to us, that seems crazy and ridiculous. But that was reality back then, you know. And I think it's very important to have a successful club. It's a multicultural and multivarious club in terms of gender, in terms of, I suppose, beliefs and religious beliefs. Those things form a community. And therefore, they form a club, the community club. You can't have one without the other. So I'm very, very glad we're in what everyone in the live chat's in unanimous verdict with that. It creates a very successful environment to thrive. So yes, we also have a few comments here. Everyone's in unanimous agreement here. Julian's opining that basically, because on the premise that Mickey was also his favourite player, does he get a beer too? Because Mickey has said there's an ale on your way post-lockdown for having him on the podium. Yeah,
I would settle for a drink from Mr. Joyce. Yes, if he wants to buy me one.
Unless, of course, you just send him a crate from Asda. You know, I mean, the deliveries are ubiquitous now; they're everywhere. So I'm sure you can afford to swing him a $5 for a crate. That's from him, by the way, not from me. So yeah,
I look forward to actually being able to see him and have a drink in person rather than over Zoom calls.
Well, while it's in my mind, I do want to stress the SUFCtv group chat, the team that we represent, we do want, on the strength of the evidence that last week, which I conducted the quiz night last week, was by all accounts a grand success. Once lockdown has elapsed and we're all back to a relative normality in our lives, I'm putting myself forward to host the real quiz in the function suite in Gander Green Lane. I hope you're going to be there. I hope everyone's going to be there. And if in the live chat you agree with this motion, please second it, third it, fourth it, please, because let's make this dream happen. It'll be the best quiz night in history. Will you be there, Dave?
I will, but I think you might have competition because I think we've already got a provisional date for the next one hosted by the manager.
Oh, fantastic. Wouldn't that be nice? Wouldn't that be nice?
He did one a few months ago, which was really, really good. And he's already said he'll do another one. I think there is a provisional date in the diary, but I can't remember when it is.
Brilliant. Well, I'll be there as well, you know. I mean, whenever there's beer, I'll be there.
But what I'm also happy to do is, following last week's, if you want, I'll set an all-sport quiz for you. You can do a sport quiz.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I'm more than happy to do it. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just you've got my number now, so give me a call whenever.
Yeah, and if this is a two-way conversation, we could ask Mickey Joyce that we haven't had his score in yet from the football quiz last week, and I want the genuine score of how many he managed.
Well, Mickey, I think before you do send across that beer, I think the first thing you could do is do as Dave says and supply your score for last week's quiz. I think the nation would need to know this. So yeah, well, it's been a very interesting conversation. We've been chatting for an hour and 26 minutes now. So of course, as I gave you plenty of warning this afternoon, I wrap every single interview with people at SUFCtv with a final question. And I think you know what this question is. But for the avoidance of doubt and for our listeners, I'll read it out again. So, Mr. Farebrother, I've got a scenario for you. And the scenario is, when Sutton played Inverness Caledonian Thistle in the Challenge Cup, I think 2 years ago, Iron Brew Challenge Cup. I had a can of Iron Brew earlier on, actually. It was lovely. Anyway, so, for that trip, you have to drive. Planes are all off, trains are all off, and you need to drive. It would take, honestly, about 15 hours to get up there. I know from experience. So, how would you, obviously, you be in the driving seat, but which 4 passengers would you select to accompany you? They have to be celebrities, dead or alive.
Okay. Right. Well, as I said, I started off with some of my earliest memories are watching and listening to sport. Mm-hmm. And we lived in a house owned by a doctor, an Irishman, and his passion was boxing.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And he used to be a massive fan of a guy who was known then as Cassius Clay and changed his name to Muhammad Ali.
Wow.
So from a ridiculously early age, I was only about 7, I started watching and listening to the Ali fights. So my first guess would be Muhammad Ali.
Muhammad Ali, and so he'd be in the back seat. He could,
to be honest, he could sit wherever he wanted. So I'm not going to argue with him.
In fairness, I wouldn't like to owe him money either. So he doesn't need to owe you petrol money either.
No, yeah. The problem with having Ali is the other 3 guests might not get a word in edgeways. But yeah. I'd be interested to know about his background, how he grew up in Louisville. Mm. I visited the house where he was born a couple of years ago. It's in a probably better part of the town now than it was then. Yeah. But he faced a lot of prejudice. He got to the top in the Olympics and the world heavyweight. He then had to fight all sorts of prejudice and the military call-up, and then he went and won the title.
Yeah.
He met all sorts of world. There was a stat that at one time he was probably better known on the planet than anybody else in history had ever been.
Yeah. Probably, yeah.
So I'd love to love Ali in the car. That would be one.
Okay.
As we mentioned earlier, I taught physics for a while. It wasn't what I actually did. It was just sort of part-time. But I did study physics as my degree. Mm. I'd love to be able to talk to either Einstein or James Clerk Maxwell, a Scot, you'll be pleased to know, who should be as well known as Einstein for what he did on electromagnetism, but unfortunately isn't, but is up there with him, certainly. The problem is I probably couldn't understand what they were talking about. So therefore, I'd go for someone who could understand that, but who could put it in my language. That'd be Brian Cox.
Brian Cox, okay, yeah.
The musician and TV presenter, because he does explain science in a really, really accessible way.
Yeah. And
there's a book called Y = MC squared, which is one of the most famous equations ever, and he proves it only using Pythagoras' theorem. It's fascinating. So I have Brian Cox. Third, let's have a bit of glamour. We've got two blokes in the car who think they're good looking, so let's go for some glamour. We'll go for the actress Hedy Lamarr.
Okay.
Seems a strange choice, and I wouldn't have picked her 2 or 3 years ago. But then I found out that she led rather a remarkable life. Born in Austria, she was an actress at a very young age. Got chastised for appearing in a film that, for its day, was considered rather racy. And bearing in mind she was in Austria and Germany, she ended up marrying a guy who was essentially one of the financiers of the Nazi Party.
Yeah.
So she knew quite a lot of these high-ranking people from that era.
Yeah.
She then saw what was coming and managed to get to Paris before the war started, and then to London.
Yeah.
Gave the Americans and the British a lot of the secrets from the Nazis that she'd met. Went to Hollywood, became arguably the most glamorous actress in Hollywood of the late 40s.
Yeah.
But beyond that, she was a scientist. She invented herself as a scientist and came up with a load of various inventions, one of which, the idea actually effectively led to what we're doing now, talking through Bluetooth or the internet.
Yeah.
So quite remarkable that someone who's known for being a glamour puss actress, that's the Hollywood style of the 40s, was actually a really, really clever scientist.
Yeah.
So her story is largely unknown, I think. So that'd be interesting. The fourth person is a guy called Major John Wesley Powell.
Okay.
He's an American, born in New York, from a reasonable family, but his father had no great interest in his son being educated. So his son would walk miles to the next village to the library to read up on anything he could.
Yeah.
He read up on engineering, he read up on the classics, he went to university and studied Greek and Latin, I think, and engineering. Obviously joined the military when the Civil War started. He lost an arm at the Battle of Shiloh. And then he went into his love of geology. And the thing that makes him stand out, remembering he only had one arm, he led the first expedition by boat down the Colorado River through the Grand Canyon.
Interesting enough.
Not inflatable like you do it now, in a solid wooden boat. And a bit like Odysseus in the Odyssey, when he was strapped to the chair so he could hear the sirens singing and not be distracted, Powell had a wooden chair bolted to his boat and had himself strapped to it so that he didn't fall out as the boat went over the rapids.
Wow.
Then nothing was heard of them for 3 months, so everyone assumed that they'd died, they'd been eaten by wild animals, or they'd been attacked by Native Americans. But 3 months later, the boat appeared at the other end of the Grand Canyon, and he went on to effectively found the American Geological Service. He became a leading environmentalist. He said there wasn't enough water in the West to sustain cities and farming.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, the moneyed people disagreed with him, which is why the American West has all these lovely green golf courses, but not enough water to sustain it.
Yeah.
And he's just a fascinating guy, and I'd love to talk to him. So that'd be my four: Ollie, Brian Cox, Hedy Lamarr, and John Wesley Powell.
I would honestly love to hear them four discuss the fate of Sutton United last season. I would love to hear that. Honestly, it'd be a great, fascinating discussion with you at the wheel. Well, yeah, that's been a very interesting kind of hour and what's been around 33 minutes. This made my record time for a conversation, so it clearly is testament to the comments we've had and the feedback we've had from the live chat, and it's been genuinely interesting for me too to get an insight as to what it's like to take on so many miscellaneous roles in the club. So obviously, like you've the wing committee, the club dinners, the safety officer, club chairman. So you've been a jack of all trades, and it seems to be the master of all. So, so I've got to say, on behalf of myself and every subscriber, everyone who's tuned in tonight, a massive thank you for taking your time out on this Thursday evening, where we're hopefully exiting lockdown soon. So yes, thanks very much, Dave. It's been a pleasure.
Okay, there's one thing I have to say before I go, otherwise Stuart Howe will shoot me.
Okay.
That's Lucky Striker, which Stuart runs and many people will be members of. And he's asked me to put a plug in that if you're not a member of Lucky Striker, which is a prize draw run every month, you can go on the forum and see his details and get in touch, and you can join. And he'd love to have more members. Fantastic.
Well, I must second that message then. Lucky Striker, get involved, guys. You know it makes sense, okay? Well, yes, I've got to say, thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure to have, of course, the the club chairman here tonight, and hopefully we will see each other back at Gander Green Lane in the very, very near future. So yes, on behalf of myself, stay safe. We're not out of lockdown yet. We're not out of the woods yet. Stay safe, stay alert, control the virus, and save lives, ultimately, is a message from the government. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been an absolute pleasure to be your host tonight again. Like I say, I'm Greg Clark. I've been your host, and I'll be your host forevermore. Take care of yourselves, guys. Good night.
Good night.